In the fall of 1984, I was working as the publicist on Desperately Seeking Susan in New York City. We were shooting in a building in Harlem called the Audubon Ballroom. It was infamous for being the place where Malcolm X had been assassinated. It had fallen into disrepair. I don't think anybody was really using it. It's kind of ruins. And we had built one of the prime settings for the movie, which was the Magic Club. And if you've seen the film, you know that's where a lot of important parts in the plot take place. Anyway, the scene was a scene where Rosanna Arquette was doing her first time out on stage as a musician's assistant and doing a real lousy job at it. So we're in this room, really for days, and the place is filled with smoke, these noxious fumes that the cinematographer Ed Lockman felt were necessary for us to breathe in order for him to get the effect that he needed with the light in the scene. In that room were really interesting people, interesting young people of the time, in the film in general. For example, the MC, who is this kind of rude, crude MC, was played by John Turturro in one of his early parts. He's playing this small role in this film. And this cigarette girl was played by Ann Magnuson, who is kind of legendary to me for being this person who's doing all this amazing creative work in the East Village as a performer. And she was going around saying, cigars, cigarettes, to foodie, which I thought was magical. And at the bar, I saw Tom DiCillo, who was the cinematographer on Stranger Than Paradise. Now, I was working on that film at the same time. While this was shooting, my company was handling Stranger Than Paradise, which was in release. And so I said, Tom, you're a great, director of photography. Why are you're an extra here. You don't even have a line. He said, I want to be an actor. And I'm really enjoying this. I'm finding everything about this to be interesting. And I'm thinking to myself, he's been on movie sets before. But I guess not one like this. Anyway, it worked out. Tom became a really successful writer-director. And I actually, as a publicist, worked on one of his films called Living in Oblivion years later. So that was a good career move for old Tom. Anyway, I had gotten a call from Ann Lander at Orion Pictures, the company that was making this motion picture. And she said, I want you to set up a photo shoot with Rosanna and Madonna with Herb Ritts. And Herb Ritts was one of the top celebrity photographers of that time. I mean, he died recently. He's one of the greats. And I said, sure, I'll set it up. And she gave me the information. And Rosanna was, very easy to deal with. She was happy to do it. She was, we were close at the time. But then I had to go to Madonna, who, never missed an opportunity to yank my chain. So I went up to her and told her about it. And she said, is he gay? Gay men take good pictures of me. I said, I have no idea if Herb Ritts is gay, Madonna. I've worked with him. And the pictures he took of the actress I was working with, they were stunning. She looked so great. Of course, she had no problem going to this photo shoot. She just wanted to mess with me like she always liked to mess with me. And these special photography sessions were really about getting a name to set up photography, in addition to the stuff that was done on the set. We had a great still photographer, Andy Schwartz, and he took amazing pictures from the film. But they want something that's going to fly, where people are going to be really happy to buy this stuff for magazines, where people can go, I've got an exclusive Herb Ritts shot, and I know that nobody else has it, unlike the kind of unit photography that's distributed, to everyone. So they want this. And usually these are just things. Herb sells most of the pictures. He owns the pictures and he sells them directly. And then he gives me a hunk of them for free that I can distribute. And I say, I've got this Herb Ritts art and you can use it. Of course, everybody can use it. But I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we also did the poster? My background was in posters. I got into the film business designing posters and other things. I was a graphic designer. And I'd done dozens of posters by this time, even though I was there as the publicist. So I just started thinking, well, what would the poster be if we were going to make a poster? And I thought there is one thing that really makes this story work, and that's the jacket. Madonna has a jacket which she sells. Rosanna buys this jacket and puts it on, and that sets up the plot. Rosanna's character is a New Jersey housewife, and she has fantasies about a woman that she's never met, but she feels that this bohemian woman is living a life like the life that she dreams of living. So she puts on this jacket, and she actually does get to trade places with Madonna in a lot of ways. She gets mistaken for her, and hijinks ensue. And in fact, Rosanna gets conked on the head, which gives her amnesia. Very common malady. And so she doesn't know she's Roberta for a lot of the story. So I thought the jacket. Now, there's only supposed to be one jacket that they share, but of course you couldn't do it that way because Madonna had a totally different body than Rosanna did. So you had to make a jacket for her and a jacket that fit Rosanna perfectly. And normally, it's not easy to get a production to loan you wardrobe or any prop. But this was something, and this was a really important piece of wardrobe. So they don't normally say, yeah, well, you just take it, bring it back if you feel like it. But I knew there were multiples on these jackets. And so I went to Santo Loquasto, who was the costume designer and production designer of the film. And I said, Santo, here's what it's for. Can I take the jacket? And he said, sure, but somebody has to be with it. And it's not going to be me. And so Melissa Stanton, the wardrobe supervisor, she volunteered and she was nice enough to say, so I would have her Saturday. I don't know if she got paid for it, but she came. And so she would bring the two jackets and a bunch of accessories that would also fill out the costume for this thing. And so that was the plan. Saturday comes along, and I go up to this building on the far west side of Manhattan. It was in the 50s, I think. And I get up to the floor where the photo shoot is going to take place. It's this big loft space, big open area. And the first thing I see is Madonna whipping off her top to put on a costume or clothes for this. Because usually they give you fashion stuff that you have to wear for these things. And I thought, well, that's something very few people are ever going to see. And so she's doing that. And Herb is taking pictures of Rosanna, because the whole plan for the day was he would take pictures of Rosanna against a certain spot, and then you take pictures of Madonna against the same backdrop. So he was doing that. And Madonna, strolls over to watch this, and I'm walking over with her. And I should say that they had a very odd, strange relationship. They liked each other. They spent time with each other. They enjoyed being with each other on the few times that Madonna worked, but they socialized off the set, I'm told. At the same time, the film came into being because Rosanna Arquette said yes. She was the hottest young woman actor at the time. she was the it girl. She had starred in the Executioner's Song and gotten amazing reviews for that. She'd been the star of Baby It's You by John Sayles. And before shooting this, just before shooting this, she had been in no less than After Hours, directed by somebody named Martin Scorsese. So she was on a roll, and she had big pictures lined up for after this. The part of Susan, while it was in the title character, it was a supporting role. It was only really a few days of work. She was not like Rosanna. Rosanna, it was her story, and she worked every day. And there was a big difference in their personalities. While Rosanna was one of, extremely beautiful woman, she was sensitive. She was, insecure. Her attractiveness was of a certain type. Whereas Madonna was a steamroller. She was this big truck coming down the highway. She was not subtle. You couldn't miss her when she was coming. So there was this thing. There was just no problem coming into a room and identifying who the alpha was. So there was that kind of stuff going on. And so Rosanna is posing, and I'm strolling over with Madonna, and she's watching Rosanna pose. And Madonna looks at her and says, "You look so hot. I'd like to fuck you right now." Well, Rosanna, who's in the middle of all this stuff, she just wilts. It's like totally blows her self-confidence, which was probably the idea, but I don't know. Madonna was Madonna. She couldn't help being Madonna. She was what she was. And I had a strange relationship with her myself. I think on one hand, she really respected me, or she was interested in what I could offer her because I was a publicist after all, and she was interested in the media. She was interested in anything that could help her become as successful as she knew she was born to be. So she wanted to know what I knew. And she also liked to talk to me about her plans. And I needed to know. She knew every single country in the world where she was already a star. They knew her. So she would tell me that, and then I would work to bring international press from those countries to the set. And so not only would they be happy to come, but she would be happy to do it. And she enjoyed working with me, I would say. But if we were in a public place on the set, she might spy somebody looking at the fact that she was sitting next to me talking to me. And then high school would just jump in. Mean Girls would jump in, and she would realize, I'm the most popular kid at this high school, and I'm sitting here next to Mr. King Nerd. Why am I talking to him? So in a flash, she wouldn't know who the hell I was, and she would be gone. But from my perspective, I had had many, many mentors by the time. People had trained me. Lois Smith, among others. And they'd shown me what it is to be a publicist. And I'd met a lot of celebrities, and I'd spent time with celebrities and had the opportunity to see how people who are confident in how they're going to present themselves so that they can be successful. But I had never met anybody like Madonna, and I've never met anybody like Madonna since. She was in her own category, Madonna-ness. And I learned from that. And she changed my life. She definitely changed my life. But I didn't think like that. I didn't allow myself to think like that. And so when I was working on a movie in the future, everything since then, when I worked on something, I had to believe in it. Because I realized with her that it was her belief that carried the world after her. She believed that she was going to be a huge star. She knew it. So everybody else had to just catch up to the reality that she already knew about. So that was my approach. When I was working on a movie like this, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I would tell people that it was going to be monster success, and they went, okay, Reed, it's Kung Fu. And they wouldn't necessarily follow me there. You had to believe. You had to have a vision how things could work. And I learned that from her. I learned to have that certainty that she had, or to at least fake it. I could do that with movies that I was representing. I could not do it with myself. Anyway, we were at this thing. Madonna played me a song that she had recorded for a record with her boyfriend, Jellybean Benitez, who was a record producer. And it was called Sidewalk Talk. And so she played me this track, and I listened. I said, I really like this. And I knew that she cared that I liked it. Otherwise, why the hell did she play me the track? So I think this kind of shows you the complexities of it. In a situation like that, we could talk. I was often at her apartment because when she acted, she might not be on set for a while, but I had photos that I had to get approved, and she lived a few blocks away from me, so I would go to her apartment and show her the photos, and we would work on them together. And when you're alone with somebody, they talk, and you talk, and she shared her plans. She, in those days, had a dream of making a movie about where she would play Marlene Dietrich's part in The Blue Angel. That was one of her ideas. That would have been interesting. Some people thought it was like a very fluky thing that Susan Seidelman would pick her and that this would happen. But I think that she always had her eyes on being a full entertainer, and that meant that she was going to act in movies as well. I mean, I know it because she told me. So we're there at this thing, and it's going on, and then suddenly Andre Leon Talley arrives. Now, I don't know if you know who that is. I hope you do. He died recently, but he's one of the greatest figures in world fashion. This is a legend walking in the door. And he comes up to Madonna, and out of his bag, he pulls out a pair of men's boxer shorts, and he sticks it on her hair, on her head. And I go over to her, and in those days, we all called her Emmy, or most of us called her Emmy. So I said, I hope she hates that if she sees this. And I said, Em, are you okay with this? Because I asked you to come here for a special photography session with Herb Ritts, but I didn't say, do you also want to have your picture in Vogue with boxer shorts on your head? She said, call Freddie. So I got on the phone and called her manager, Freddie DeMann, and I said, this is what happened. And Freddie said, sure, it's fine. The thing about Madonna is while she was one of the biggest pains in the asses I've ever worked with, and while she never missed an opportunity to make fun of me in front of other people, including journalists, she was the easiest client. Because she was simple. She was like, yeah, I'll do that. Or talk to Freddie, or let's talk to Liz, who was her publicist at Warner Brothers. And it would be easy. And I can't really think of a single situation where she ever said no to me. She did it all. I also can't think of any situation where she wasn't rude, but she did it all. So the day is going on, and I'm watching Herb work, and you've got a lot of, I'm doing nothing. I'm just watching, and I get a feeling, Herb is maybe just a tad more interested in Madonna than the star of the movie. Because Herb knows who she is. I mean, Orion, they don't have a clue who she is. They're fighting against her, but Herb knew exactly who she was and where she was going, and he wanted to go there with her. So he wanted to take some really great pictures that would impress her so that this wouldn't be the last time he was shooting pictures of Madonna. That was my thought. And I was right. Anyway, it's going on. And I realize this is slipping away from me. So I go up to Herb and I say, it's the end of the day. People are tired. We have to do this now. Please. And he says, okay. And Melissa takes Madonna and Rosanna off to get into their costumes. And Herb and I go over to this little piece of wall, maybe 6 or 7 feet, next to the window, which looks out on the Hudson. He's been working with all these incredible backdrops. We're getting a wall. So they come over and they stand against this wall, and I think they were probably lit by the window, and maybe some of his assistants had a reflector. I don't really know, but it was really like the lights were set up in one place, and we were just going to walk over and shoot some pictures over there because I asked. And they got there, and Herb, in my observation to him, was not the kind of person to just roll the motor drive. He took pictures. So he got a shot, and then he moved them a little bit, and they trusted him. They'd been working with him all day, and he got another shot and another shot. And it took about 15 minutes. And those 15 minutes worth of photos became covers, almost every one of them. And covers of important magazines like Rolling Stone, like Playboy. There was a shot of Madonna from those 15 minutes that I got on the cover of Playboy. You don't normally get on the cover of magazines without really, really elaborate photo shoots. And even this whole situation with this special photography shoot, I've been on so many since then. Normally you've got all these people around, like the studio executives and people from the movie, and everybody's got an opinion. This was just Melissa and me. And we were the catering department too. We went out and got sandwiches for everybody. We were really it. And so much came out of that. It was an incredible piece, probably the best 15 minutes for my career ever. So after this, I happened to be at a meeting at Orion. I don't know whether I was there for a different meeting and I happened to go into the office or whether I was invited to this meeting, but it was the meeting of the ad department or the ad agency to show the publicity, the ad ideas and poster ideas for the movie. Now, Orion was quite sure that Madonna's career was a total flash in a pan, to say the least. They were sure that it was going to be completely over and nobody was going to remember anything about her by April. So the movie was being rushed out by March before she was utterly, completely forgotten. I had some interesting conversations about this. And I said, I disagree. I've been around her. She's going to be very successful. So it had to come out fast. And that meant that the ad people had not had an opportunity to see the film and see what it was like. So they were going by the script, which was about a suburban housewife. So they had all these suburban images. And they had Rosanna on a toaster, and they had Madonna popping out of the toaster on a piece of toast. Her picture was on the piece of toast. And they wouldn't have done these ads if they'd seen the movie, but they hadn't. Maybe they'd seen some dailies. But anyway, it was awful. And Midge Sanford and Sarah Pillsbury, the producers, they were there. We were looking at each other like, wow, And I happened to have Herb's pictures in my bag, and I pulled them out of my bag, and I said, "Have you seen these?" And they hadn't. And they looked at them, and there was a silence in the room. So at that point, it was the battle that Midge and Sarah had to get that image used as the poster, because they weren't any more enthusiastic about that poster art than they were about Madonna. And I wasn't around for this, but apparently Midge told me that they considered that poster, they thought people would think that this was a movie about lesbians. But eventually, Midge won, or somebody won, and that became the poster. And I happened years later to be in London, and I was working on a movie called Shining Through that starred Melanie Griffith and Michael Douglas. One of the most unhappy periods of my life. So I was alone, and I was walking around, and I went into this museum or some kind of thing that had a thing about movies. It was either a museum about movies, or it was some kind of special presentation that had all these movie memorabilia from classic stuff. So it was a fun place to be. And as I was coming out, there was a Desperately Seeking Susan poster. And I thought, wow, this is kind of exciting, because that poster wouldn't exist if I hadn't thought it up. It was my idea. And I am therefore part of film history, because this poster, somebody decided, was important. If it had been a poster of Madonna coming out on a piece of toast, it might not have been included. But my consciousness made this thing happen, and I had a contribution. And I thought, well, it's a big, wide world of movies. It's not just directors. It's not just actors. It's not just writers. There's publicists. There's craft service. There's other people who make a difference. And I was truly happy, and I was truly proud that I had played some role in the history of the motion picture. Now, I'm going to be telling more stories like this one as YouTube videos. This is the very first one. So if you enjoyed it, I hope you'll come back for some of the others. You know the way it works on YouTube. You have to subscribe. You can hit this bell that will tell you when I'm about to put something or put something else up. So if you'll do that, I would really appreciate it, because then I won't feel like I'm doing this for nothing. Because so much of life is like that, isn't it? Anyway, I hope to be talking to you about this again. I was about to say seeing you again, but we're not really doing that, are we? But I hope that we have this occasion to be able, that I can talk to you and you can hear it, and hopefully it will amuse you, and hopefully it will mean something to you. See you then.